Powers. I'm the Seniors Living Consultant, and I'm here today with Megan Fisher, who's an Oasis Senior Advisor. So before I introduce Megan and let her say hello, I just wanted to tell you about the distinction between the two of us. I'm a realtor, so I help adult children with their parents when it's time to sell the family home or to figure out if they should age in place. And then Megan takes it one step further. And a lot of people don't realize that her services actually exist. And she offers a wonderful service of helping people into the next steps if they're going into senior living. So let's say hello to Megan.
Hello, everybody. As Karen said, I'm Megan Fisher. I own the Boston and South Shore office of Oasis Senior Advisors. And my company helps people figure out what the best fit assisted living, independent living, or memory care community is for them if they're ready for that step. And so it's a free service to the clients. I do get paid a referral fee by whatever community somebody moves into, if it's one I've recommended. But I work with everybody, so I'm never trying to sell a particular place. I really see my role as giving you the information you need to make the best decisions for you and your family.
Yeah, so let's get into that a little bit because I think I don't know if people realize the different types of living with. So let's take assisted living and even independent living together versus the memory care, because I think the memory care even gets even more involved.
Sure.
Right. So if you're just talking about an assisted living community, and maybe talk about the difference between assisted living communities and nursing homes, because I don't think a lot of people realize the difference even just about that. And there's a big difference.
Let's start with that because I think you're very right about that. You say assisted living and people sort of picture this horrible 1970s era nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like that at all.
Right.
In an assisted living, you would have your own apartment with a door that locks, your own little kitchenette so you could make meals if you wanted to or felt up to it, your own bathroom. So it's an apartment like any other apartment would be, except somebody comes in and does light housekeeping every day, makes your bed, changes your linens once a week. All 3 meals are provided, activities are provided, and care is provided. So if you're somebody who is at risk for falling in the shower, let's say, there would be somebody there to stand by and make sure that you don't slip and fall, or if you did, that somebody's there immediately and you're not lying on your bathroom floor until somebody notices a couple of days later. So assisted living is a great place for somebody who just needs a little extra help. Mm-hmm. And even if that help is just like meals and housekeeping and laundry, that can be a great benefit. Now, independent living is just like assisted living. You can have your own apartment within a complex with other apartments. There is no care, though. And independent livings tend to be a little bit more vibrant as far as activities go. A lot of them will have a swimming pool or a pickleball court or, field trips to the symphony. Assisted livings do that too, but not at the same level. Mm-hmm. And another big difference is in independent living, usually you get 1 meal a day, not 3. So you have a full kitchen. It's a small kitchen, but it's a full kitchen. So if you're somebody who likes your own cooking, that's the way to go. A nursing home, on the other hand, is a hospital-like setting. So assisted living, independent living, very much a home-style setting. A nursing home is a hospital-type setting. So the rooms look like hospital rooms, and the beds look like hospital beds. And unless you're private paying, and sometimes even if you are private paying, you will be sharing your room with another person or maybe 2 people, and you'll be sharing that bathroom with that person and maybe the people on the other side of the wall as well. So the focus is really on medical care. It's not so much, they do have activities and things for the people who are there for long term, but it's a different focus. It's a different kind of a beast.
Mm-hmm. And now, Tanya, who do you find is really going into the assisted living communities in terms of like what age or what stage do you find that the majority of people are going in? Because I'm sure it's not something many of us, strive for in life, being like, oh, I can't wait to go into an assisted living community, right? So it can definitely be a touchy subject, right?
Oh, for sure. It's a process, I think, coming to terms with the idea that this is the stage of life that I'm in. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you the number of times I've walked into an assisted living with somebody who's using a cane or a walker, and they say, I can't be with all these old people.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, so it's an adjustment to your feelings.
Yeah.
In Massachusetts, the average age in assisted living is 86 years.
Okay.
All right. So the kind of person who goes in is definitely somebody who needs assistance, and maybe, they have children, but the children work. They're also taking care of their own kids. It's just a hard thing for the family to manage. And even when they can manage the care, the person, the older loved one, ends up being alone much of the day. So, the latest research is showing that loneliness is as bad for you as cigarettes. So that loneliness piece is real. And that's one thing that assisted living solves. It's also a good place for somebody who, say, has to give up their driver's license or can't drive at night anymore, because all of the activities are right there. Many of the assisted livings that have a pub. So there's like happy hour every day, and you can walk to happy hour instead of having to drive and trying to get home in the dark. So that makes a big difference for folks, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, from what I hear from people is once they get into a community, they're actually very happy and wish they had done it earlier.
It does happen. I mean, it has to be the right place, right? Because
right,
just culturally and every assisted living has its own kind of flavor, if you will. So depending upon what you're interested in and what kind of lifestyle you're used to can really impact whether that community is going to be a good fit for you or not.
right. And I think that's where you come in, right? Because you help assess their personalities, someone who may be more introverted versus extroverted, how many people like they want to get out and about versus maybe having the care come in to them while they're at the assisted living.
Yeah, it's everybody's different too, right? So the place that's right for me isn't the one that's right for you. You might be somebody who religion is very important to. And so you want to go to a place where the community makes an effort to take their residents to religious services, or they bring religious services in. Maybe you're somebody who's, I don't know, a bingo maven, and one place has bingo and the other one doesn't. Or maybe you hate bingo and you definitely don't want to go to the one that has bingo every day. So it varies quite a bit. If you're somebody who likes good food, that has a huge impact on whether you're happy in a place or not. So some communities really focus on healthy eating. Some might have a different style, more meat and potatoes. It all depends. I do recommend, if somebody's going to go look at assisted living, that they ask for a meal, whatever meal is closest to their tour time, because the community wants to show off how good their food is, or not. And but it gives you an opportunity to go and see what the food is like.
Yeah, I haven't had a bad meal yet. I've been at a few, and I always try the food. And like you said, they're very proud of the food, and the chefs are very proud of it as well. And there's a cookbook that a lot of the communities have actually combined and done together, which is kind of nice. So now let me ask you a question about levels of care. So does that vary a lot from each community in terms of like what I know they can have care like outside care come in, but like what kind of care do they have inside?
There's essentially two tiers, right? So everybody can handle basic needs. So if somebody needs help getting going in the morning, getting dressed, brushing their teeth, brushing their hair, everybody can do that. And the same thing on the other end of the spectrum. But there are some communities, they call themselves, it's more of a social model. So those communities don't do the higher level of care. So there's that one tier that everybody can do, which is basic personal care. And then that higher level of care is usually when somebody becomes either a two-person assist to get from bed to a wheelchair, or they need a mechanical lift. They might need their food pureed or their medicines not hidden, but easier to get down if it's in a puree or in a liquid. So that heavier care piece, not all communities do that.
Okay.
And none of them do it. None of them do what's called a skilled nursing need. So if you have a skilled nursing need, that's when you go to a nursing home. So if you've got a ventilator or a feeding tube or a catheter that you can't care for, in Massachusetts also injectable medications. So if you're, say, a diabetic who cannot handle your own medication, your own injection insulin shots, then that's somebody else who's not a good fit for assisted living in Massachusetts. The rules vary by state, actually.
Okay. So could they have some like outside? So if the family wanted or the person wanted to be in the assisted living versus in a skilled nursing care, could they have outside help come in and do
Oh,
that?
yeah, 100%. Yep.
And do you find a lot do that because they want to live in these communities if they can afford it?
If they can afford it, most people do not,
Mm-hmm.
because usually at that point, they have more than one issue wrong with them.
Yeah.
Say somebody is a insulin dependent diabetic and they need
Mm-hmm.
shots every day and they need to have their blood sugar measured. Then
Mm-hmm.
I would actually recommend they go to Rhode Island, because Rhode Island, the assisted livings are allowed to do that. So even if an assisted living has a registered nurse, that nurse, because it belongs to the assisted living, can't do that skilled nursing need. But certainly VNA, Visiting Nurses Association, could come in and say dress a wound or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, another question I have for you is how do you work with spouses that may not be at the same level? Like one may need assisted living, or one may even need memory care and be independent. Like, I don't know how that works with the memory care, because I know, maybe we can talk a little bit more about the memory care and then we can shift into this conversation, because I think that must be challenging for the families and for you to help navigate that.
Yeah, that's a tough one. To just kind of define or explain what memory care is versus traditional assisted living. So
Mm-hmm.
traditional assisted living is that you're in your own apartment with a lockable door. It's your home. In memory care, you're also in an apartment. They call it an
Mm-hmm.
apartment, but it's really more like a room. Usually it's a studio. Sometimes it's a 1 bedroom. It will
Mm-hmm.
not have a kitchenette. The door doesn't lock. But most importantly, it's in a secure area or secure
Mm-hmm.
unit, so that memory care residents can't wander away. They can't leave. Somebody can come in, say a family member, and take them out to lunch or something like that, but they
Mm-hmm.
cannot leave on their own. So memory care is really appropriate for somebody who's not oriented to time and place.
Mm-hmm.
And about a third of people in traditional assisted living have some kind of cognitive decline. So just because you have cognitive decline doesn't mean off you go to the memory care,
Right.
right? You can still be in traditional assisted living. When there's a couple that has different care needs, it gets a little tricky. If you have unlimited funds, then of course
Mm-hmm.
you're pretty much set. You can do whatever you want. Memory care is the most expensive care there is, because the resident to staff ratio is lower, right? So instead of like 1 to 6, maybe it's 1 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
When there's two couples, certainly one could go, say one needs memory care and the other has few care needs. The person who needs memory care can move into the memory care, and the person who doesn't need that level of care can either stay in the home if they have enough funds,
Mm-hmm.
or they can move to their own apartment in traditional assisted living or in independent living on that same campus. So then they're just walking down to the memory care to go visit instead of having to drive there.
Okay.
When that doesn't work, the next best option, and usually it means it doesn't work from a financial standpoint,
Right.
would be to have the couple live together in the traditional assisted living. And every morning, the well spouse would walk with the person down to memory care for programming for the day.
Mm-hmm.
And the well spouse can go off and be their own person again and go out to lunch and maybe play cards. And then at the end of the day, go down to memory care and bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that only works if the person isn't a wanderer, right? So
Yeah.
it will only work at certain levels. The last option, which most communities don't really like, is
Mm-hmm.
for both spouses to live together in the memory care unit.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they don't like it is because the social opportunities for the spouse who doesn't have memory issues are very limited, because
Yeah.
folks who are there aren't all that interactive. But
Right.
for people who don't have the financial wherewithal to choose one of the other options, it is an option that sometimes works.
Okay. Do you see that often, or do you see it at all, or?
I do see it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And usually what happens is the spouse who doesn't have the memory issues will go out into the traditional assisted living side during the day and be part of that community, and then go back to the memory care to join their spouse for meals or for the night.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, they don't really like it in general. The communities
Right.
don't, just because from a social issue, it's hard for the
Mm.
person who's not got the memory issues, but it
Right.
can work.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a hard situation overall,
Yeah.
you know. Now, what about talk about people being able to try out communities and what
Okay.
that's.
So any assisted living or memory care community will have what they call a respite stay.
Mm-hmm.
Not as popular, harder to find with the independent living communities, but sometimes they'll let you do it for a weekend or something.
Mm-hmm.
But for assisted living, say you don't want to commit to that,
Mm-hmm.
just to selling your house and moving in, and you walk in there thinking like, oh my God, this is it. This is the final chapter.
Right.
You don't have to do that. And you can always leave assisted living whenever you want to, right? So you give
Mm-hmm.
30 days notice and you can leave no harm, no foul. You don't pay any penalties. But a
Mm-hmm.
respite stay, you can go try it out for 30 days or 60 days. And I think it was originally developed for folks coming out of rehab. So say
Mm-hmm.
you got a new knee and you were in the hospital and then you went to rehab. And now it's time for you to leave rehab, but your bathroom's on the second floor, or for some reason it's not right time for you to go home. You can move to an assisted living for a shorter period of time. They will provide all the furniture,
Mm-hmm.
and you just move in, and you can do that too, not as a respite while you're trying to
Right.
recover, but just to try it out. And if you're someone who has a spouse who needs a lot of care, and say maybe you want to go to a wedding, or just get away for the weekend or something,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can do that as well, is put them in. Because as a former caregiver myself, I know that caregiver burnout is real.
Mm-hmm.
And they always say, put your own mask on first before you can help somebody else. It's
Right.
like, when I was a caregiver, I thought, how am I going to do that? I just could not see a way to make that happen. But
Right.
this is a way that you can make it happen.
Yeah.
Somebody can move in for 30 days and the caregiver gets the respite,
Mm-hmm.
and the other person gets a change of pace, and maybe um, makes some friends and has some socialization that they don't get at home sometimes.
Yeah. Now, is that difficult to do in terms of the communities having the availability? Do you have to pretty much schedule that out, that type of stay?
It does help to schedule it out. Things seem to come and go. So pre-COVID, most everybody had the space and did respites all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Post-COVID, like immediately, like 2003, 2004, everybody was full because all
Mm-hmm.
of the people that waited during COVID because they didn't want to move in during COVID
Right.
moved in. Now it's sort of come back to more of an equilibrium. So usually a place will have a spot open. The farther out you can schedule it, of course, the more likely you are to have a room available for you.
Okay. So that's good. And then ideally, so, I meet with a lot of people that are, older in their 80s and 90s, living very full lives, not lonely, still able to drive, still out there socializing. How do you get those folks to want to look, right? Knowing that it's
Yeah.
not today, because, right, don't, I mean, I'm sure you must find that a lot of people, and from what I read and from what I know from talking with you, is that a lot of people all of a sudden they have a fall, or they have a medical, incident that they weren't expecting. And now all of a sudden they have to move out of rehab into a community, and now it's like it's stress because they haven't looked at any place and they just kind of have to go with like what's available. So
Right.
how do you
Yeah.
approach
And
that?
it's a hard one,
Mm,
because there are people that are like, I'm going out of my house feet first,
that's right.
you know, in the pine box. But
Yep.
I'm a planner. I like to know what's going to happen next, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I feel like the big advantage to going and looking is, one, you find out how expensive things are.
Mm-hmm.
So you can talk with your financial planner and make a plan for if this becomes your reality, right? If you live
Mm-hmm.
long enough to need this service.
Right.
And the other is, like you said, you don't want to do it in a crisis.
Right.
That's the worst, especially if you're, in rehab. You're not going to be able to go out and tour, so you won't know what the
Right.
place is like. So yeah, I do recommend people have a plan. It's like putting together an estate plan. This
Yep.
is what will happen if X happens to me,
Yep.
and I sleep better that way.
Exactly. So now you brought up a big piece, like which is probably the elephant in the room, the financial aspect of it, because as we know in Massachusetts, other states as well, but Massachusetts, it's very expensive to have this level of living. Um, so how do a lot of people, because I know it's, how do people pay for it? What are some of the ways that people pay for it?
So let's just talk about pricing first.
Mm,
So assisted living, it's like any other type of living. It
mm-hmm,
varies wildly, and what you get for the money varies wildly. So
mm-hmm,
you can live in a very sort of no frills place that's clean and has good care, but no frills, for about $4,000 a month.
mm-hmm,
Right? That includes your meals, includes your activities, includes utilities and taxes and light housekeeping. So 4,000 a month might sound like a lot of money for an apartment, but when
mm-hmm.
you add it all up, it's not as shocking as it seems on the face of it.
Right.
Right. So, and that goes all the way up to about, well, if you are somebody who needs a lot of care, that
Mm-hmm,
might cost you $12,000 to $14,000 a month
mm-hmm,
in assisted living. Depends on the community. Usually, sort of what I think of as the upper middle tier is somewhere in the $7,000 to $9,000 a month for like a 1 bedroom assisted living apartment
mm-hmm.
on the South Shore.
Yeah.
If you go into a nursing home, Medicaid will pay for that,
Mm-hmm,
but because communities don't get paid as much by Medicaid as they do private pay,
mm-hmm.
you can jump to the top of a list. So all of the really good ones have a waiting list, or almost always have a waiting list. I always tell my clients, if you see a skilled nursing need coming down the road, even
Mm-hmm.
12 to 18 months out, get on a list. I know there's a place in Weymouth's got a 5-year waiting list.
Wow.
Yeah. So it doesn't cost anything to be on the list. And what happens is when your number comes up, they will call you and you can just say, I'm not ready now. Please leave me on the list. And they'll do that. You don't drop back down to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But a nursing home, if you're at that level of care, is going to cost you $16,000 to $17,000 a month out of pocket.
Yeah.
And while that is a shocking amount, to bring somebody in to have home care 24/7 is about $20,000 to $22,000 a month.
Right.
So those are the kinds of costs that I really think people should go and look, find a couple of places that you like, that you can see yourself living in, find
Mm-hmm.
out how much they are, work with a financial planner to figure out how you can do that. Now, if your financial planner, or maybe you don't even have one, says you cannot do it, or you look at your bank account and go, there are some programs to help, but they're limited. So 2 of them are Medicaid, what they call community-based waiver programs. One
Mm-hmm.
of them is group adult foster care. Usually there's only one community on the South Shore that has this program. If you can private pay for 3 years at that like $7,000 a month, and then you
Mm-hmm.
run out of money, if they have an opening, you can go on their group adult foster care program, and the community takes that, whatever the group adult foster care pays, and you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. But
Mm-hmm.
right now, eligibility financially is $1,500 or $1,400 a month. That's the
Okay.
max. So not very much.
Right.
Another program that's available in Massachusetts is called PACE. That's
Mm-hmm.
Program for All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. And they will cover $1,500 to $2,000 a month for your care at a community that contracts with them.
Okay.
Now, there's only 3 or 4 communities on the South Shore that contract with PACE right now.
Okay.
So again, it's like, you can get on a wait list for a PACE apartment at one of these communities.
Mm-hmm.
And the other program is called Low Income Housing Tax Credit Program.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to be able to build in that particular spot, the community made a deal with the town that it's in to reserve some apartments as affordable. And that's not based on a monthly income, that's based on a yearly income. And the formula takes into account if you have a nest egg of like $100,000 or $200,000, you could still qualify. In
Yeah.
Weymouth, low income is under $57,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
$57,000 a year. And in Cambridge, it's like 63. So it really depends on the community. And
Yeah.
again, most communities don't advertise that they have these programs, but they
Right.
are out there.
And oh, sorry, I just wanted to ask, just so I don't forget, in the towns, do you have to live in those towns to be able to live in those communities, or does it not
No,
matter?
you can just move in. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you're going to private pay, which is everybody else who doesn't qualify for one of these programs,
Mm-hmm.
um, people pay for it through long-term care insurance.
Mhm.
So most long-term care insurance will cover assisted living. There's a veterans program. You have to have been honorably discharged, and have served 1 day of active duty during wartime.
Mhm.
You could have been, stationed in Boston. Doesn't matter. If it was during wartime, you would qualify for this. And that's worth about $1,800 for the veteran and
Mhm.
another $1,400 a month for the spouse
Oh, good. I was just gonna
or,
ask about
or
this
widow. Yeah.
widow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good to know.
Other things that people do is they sell their life insurance so that they have a life insurance plan. They can sell it on the secondary market and
Mhm.
use those funds,
Okay.
or they can sell their home.
Mhm.
Um, or if they're private paying, I guess they could rent their home as well and use some of that money.
Right. There's a lot to think about. I mean, it's overwhelming. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think with I think they say the average age, life expectancy is 78, right? But a lot of people are living a lot longer
Yeah.
than that and healthier, right? I mean, then you conversely you have the other end of it where people are getting, dementia diagnosis much early onset, and I'm sure you're seeing that in the communities because I just get the chills thinking of it because it's they're going in at a very young age into
Yeah.
some of these communities, right? So you have both ends of it, I guess, right?
Yeah. It's, you never know what the end is going to be. It's like
Right.
I said that, the average length of stay in assisted living in Massachusetts is 2.5 years. My
Mm.
mother-in-law was in for 8. So
Wow.
you just don't know. Yeah. That's why planning is so important. Do it before you need it.
Right. But the financial aspect of it can be really, the big piece of it now,
Oh yeah.
right?
It's daunting, especially if you're somebody, like an early onset, if you're 60 years old and you have Alzheimer's, but physically you're fine.
Yep.
Yeah. It becomes a real, it's a tough issue.
It is a tough issue. And I think we are seeing different types of living options coming up now too, smaller communities, which I'm sure would be something that you'd probably be able to help people move into as well. But you're seeing that aspect of it as well. Besides the larger communities, you are seeing smaller ones because people need to figure this out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I guess that's why where I come in is the multi-generational living before people move into assisted living or memory care, independent living.
Yeah. If you have enough family support, and that means enough people who
Yeah.
don't have something else they're trying to do full time, living at home, so multiple generation.
Mhm.
So that means the care is almost always going to fall on the woman, the wife. But,
Right.
it does certainly work for quite a long time for a lot of folks.
Yep. Yeah. So it's another option. So
Yeah.
tell me, what are you seeing a lot of changes um, now or challenges that you're coming out that you're seeing families that you're helping them navigate the differences since you've been doing this?
I think the biggest thing is that the price there's two things.
Mhm.
Price has gone up like everything else. Massachusetts housing has gone up, what, 50, 60, 70%?
Yeah.
Same is true for assisted living.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is there is a big push to build more assisted living
Mm-hmm.
communities. Everybody's going high end because the
Mm-hmm.
profit margin is bigger, right? So if you're somebody who has 8, 9,000 a month to pay for it, that's great. If you're somebody who has 4, 5, 6,000 a month, it's a harder to find the right place for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and you mentioned the wait lists too, which is scary, especially if there's a place that you fell in love with and you're like, this is where I want mom and dad to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the assisted livings mostly don't have a long wait list, maybe
Okay.
6 or 8 months, unless you're looking for something very specific, like a 2 bedroom with 2 bath, or a
Okay.
place with a patio, So, but if you're just looking for a 1 bedroom, most of the time you can get moved in within a few months,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe right away. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you need skilled nursing care, a nursing home, and you want to go to a place that you would feel comfortable being in, yeah, that's where
Mm-hmm.
you get the really long wait lists.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope we get a lot of people that see this today because, I mean, the service that you offer is really invaluable. And you have such a great heart and, I know
Oh,
your
thank you.
ethics are strong and you care.
Yeah.
So, and you want to do the right thing by people. So I really hope a lot of people see this because I just don't think a lot of people know that this service exists.
It's my
And
biggest challenge. Yeah.
yeah. And what a skill. I mean, and you have to go visit these communities all the time because things are always changing, and just to
Yeah.
see who's bringing in care, who has like care that's actually in the community, right? Because some have outside services, and some
Yep.
families, we didn't even touch really upon that, but some people might not want to deal with that. They may want it all to know it's in there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely communities where you end up bringing extra care in because they're not set up to do that extra care.
Yeah.
But that's very expensive and not really very usual, I think.
Right. Well, and I'm also talking like aren't there some communities that have their own people that work for the community, and then some source outside to have outside care people that,
Do you mean like a community that would have a home care branch? Or are you talking about?
yeah, I'm talking like home care services. Like they might have those that they what do I want to say? Like sub out and they come in versus having them be under their own corporate umbrella. They Am I making that up? Does that not exist?
I've never heard of that, but I'm not 100% sure that I know what you're talking about. There
Okay.
are home care companies that
Mhm.
send people into assisted livings.
Yes.
Like if you need, say you're in more of a social model
Hmm.
assisted living community, and now you're rehabbing because you got a brand new knee, and you
Yeah.
just need that extra care. You could bring somebody in
Okay.
for sure. Yeah, and then some home care companies are affiliated with or have a day program, adult day programs.
Hmm.
So that would place, which is another way that caregivers can get a respite if the person they're caring for goes off to a day program, 2-3 days a week.
Which is
But
great.
I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with any assisted livings that have their caregivers go out to people's homes. I think that would be really good marketing.
Yeah. But I think it's also hard to get. It's hard to get that the care people now too, right? The CNAs and the,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. It's been better, I think, since they started paying more.
Yeah.
So, but then of course, then they're charging their clients more. So around
Right.
here, home care is about $40 an hour with a minimum
Hmm.
4-hour shift. So not inexpensive either.
No.
But it's better for the caregivers and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, and it's a lot, I guess, that as a society that we have to get better about, and especially we all know the numbers. I think it was 10,000 people a day turning 65, and I think by 2030 the last of the boomers will be 65, and then I think over the age of 60 there's going to be more of us over the age of 60 because by 2030 I will be over the age of 60 as well. Than there are people under 18, right?
wow, yeah, that's kind of scary to think about.
Yeah. So yeah, those are the not that yeah, those like I see it every day. I read it every day. So I believe those numbers are right. I hopefully I didn't get them confused. If I did, I'll put them in the notes that I confused them, but
Okay.
but hopefully not. But so what's the best way for someone to get in touch with you, Megan?
All right. So if somebody wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to talk to them. Everything is free. So, ask me a question, even if you're not going to pull the trigger for 5 years.
Mhm.
They can either Google Oasis Senior Advisors. It's there on the screen. That's probably the easiest way. Just be careful when you Google something like assisted living near me
Mhm.
because you end up with, a dozen places that are trying to get your information. And they're
Yes.
not all scams, but they will, take your information. And that's something we never do. We always act as point of contact for our clients. So
Mhm.
you can do that or reach out to me at M as in Megan Fisher at youroasisadvisor.com.
Okay, great. And I'll put these down below as well so
Okay,
people have your information.
great.
But this has been great, and I appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Karen. It's been fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it has been fun, and I will see you soon.
Okay, take care.
You too.